to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. Happy to be here today. I want to tell you about, I always feel so silly, honestly, with intros and outros. So the intro is the beginning. I think that makes sense. Outro is kind of a new word. So it already sounds weird to me. But intros and outros, I always feel awkward with them. Unless it's really brief. But like when I teach a yoga class, I usually think of things that I might say at the beginning. And then I usually just think, they're here to do yoga. And I just say, welcome, or something. Tell them to feel free to do things in a way that's safe for them, that kind of thing. But same with the podcast. I sit there and think it has to be something fancy. And if anything, I'm authentic. And so it feels weird to say something that sounds like it's an intro. So, hi. I want to talk to you about self-appreciation and trying to find ways to tell yourself that you did a great job whenever you feel like you haven't done a great job. And I was thinking about it. The reason I decided to call it self-appreciation, I don't know if anybody else in the world's called it that. I haven't, looked it up with AI or anything, because that doesn't matter, right? But long ago, when my kids used to go to this little school, it was a K-8 school with 100 kids in our little community in the Redwoods in far, far Northern California. And every year they had Teacher Appreciation Day and Parent Appreciation Day and Student Appreciation Day. And it was all so much fun. It was pretty much a celebration each time, because when we focused on the teachers, we had what was our version of a party. And when they focused on the parents, we all came and we felt like we were being celebrated. And same with the students. And so what they would do is on Student Appreciation Day, parents would come, we would scoop ice cream, we would do things. They had all the kids make kites, and the school was in a rural area and kind of a flat area below some mountains with redwoods and stuff, but there were redwoods around the school and stuff. So it was really pretty. There was a lot of land, and there was still a little bit of area like where you could play basketball or something, but it was an older school, and the kids could run and run and run out in the field. And like the kindergarten teacher said once, it's kind of a benefit when you can look out the window and say, teach the children about this is how cows mate or something, because they really were out in a rural community. But, so there were animals around, trees around, and they could just play in nature while they were at school. But on Student Appreciation Day, they basically went to school and made kites and then got to play all day. And they would take their kites out. I think it was probably first recess or something. And, they decorated them like maybe it was an art project or something. And could play with the kites. The parents would show up. Maybe it was just by lunchtime. I don't know what they actually did before that because I probably came at lunchtime. But the parents and the teachers would bring things for lunch. Usually one of the teachers would have a fish fry or something. They'd have some kind of food that the kids would think was fun, or barbecue hamburgers or something, and have a variety, of course. But the kids were celebrated, and we loved it. The kids would sit around. Parents, it was like a big family. We all knew each other, and the kids felt like, yeah, we're an important part of this school, and they were excited about that. And then I also looked forward to Teacher Appreciation Day, because as parents, we would plan out the luncheon and bring tablecloths and make it really pretty. Sometimes it was indoors. A lot of times it was outdoors. Kind of depended if it was rainy, but it was usually in the spring, and it wasn't usually that rainy in the springtime then, or closer to the end of the school year. But the teachers would come, and the teachers loved it because they felt like we appreciated them and we were showing that to them. And then on Parent Appreciation Day, we showed up and the teachers made us amazing food. And I always looked forward to it and seeing how they decorated. And it was a great tradition. It's only once a year, but it was a great tradition both for the giver and for the receiver. And yesterday I was leaving with my husband to go somewhere, and I had to gather up all these things. And I teach music to the children at church. And so I had all my things that I was bringing. And, with my ADHD, I have the hyperactive impulsive type, and I'm understanding these children in a much better way when I see those that have a hard time sitting still. So I make it fun while we learn songs and stuff. And one of the things I've done a few times, and I decided to do it on Mother's Day, was bring Beanie Babies. And we have a ton. We have a ton of Beanie Babies. From the time that they came out, my oldest daughter, who was born in 1990, she was in the era of Beanie Babies being what you get at a birthday party or I think second grade, third grade. It was really big, maybe earlier. I can't remember, but it went on for years. And excuse me while I do this to my hair because I can't, I see it and I just think, what's it doing? And then the video is mirrored. And so really, I can't tell. I used to have a mirror behind my computer where I could actually see what it was doing, but I can't tell. So sorry about that because I know most of you are listening on audio, but that's just my real little distraction for the moment. I was going to say for the day, but I might do that again. But anyway, back to getting ready. I had a lot of things to get ready besides the Beanie Babies, and I usually bring things to have in my bag for my grandchildren or I don't know, just all kinds of things. And as usual, I make a water bottle, I have that ready. I grab some sunglasses. I grab my other glasses that I don't need all the time, but if I need to look at my phone, I need them. And I'm just realizing I don't need to read anything on my computer, so I don't need my glasses on right now. But I have all these things to get, and I was actually a little bit early. I have not been early to church more than maybe 2 or 3 times in almost 4 years. And the other times were not on time. Most of them were late. I didn't used to be a late person, but since I've moved, since I've had some shift in my life, my time blindness has gotten worse, and there's other reasons for being late, but I haven't been early in a long time. Or if I am on time, I usually find something else I need to do in another room, so I don't actually get there on time. Does that make any sense? I know how to get there on time, but I think of more things to do to set up, and so um, yeah, I'm not sitting with my family on time. Anyway, back to leaving. We get out to the car. I shut the garage door and start to get out in, and I realize my phone is not in my hand, and I don't think it's in my bag. I don't remember putting it in my bag, and there are times that I go and do find my iPhone, and it's actually in my bag. But I was pretty sure I hadn't put it in my bag. So I thought, oh, okay. And, after putting like 2 bags of Beanie Babies in the car, my regular bag, my water bottle, like all these things that I manage, and I mean not like, oh, I manage to do, more like I give myself to manage because I think of way too many things. And then I think I don't even have my phone. I need my phone. So just a second, I'm going to go back in the house and get my phone. So I have to open the garage again, go in there, and it is just on the table. Like the table's the first thing you see when you walk in. It should have been the thing that I saw as I walked out, but I didn't. So my first thought was not the self-appreciation thought. It was what does this always happen? Like, why is the most obvious thing the thing that I don't have? I'm thinking of all the little things. And sometimes I get out to the car and I have my phone, I have my sunglasses, I have my bag to go to yoga class with, water bottle, and all these things. But I didn't grab my car keys. So I go back in the house. Or I do all this other stuff and I don't have my sunglasses. So I've set up a system in my house for the sunglasses. They're on a little shelf by the door. And I have enough pairs that if I didn't put one away, there's another one there. And I used to just keep them in my car, but it's not always a sure thing that I'm gonna be driving the same car. So, same thing with the keys. 99% of the time, the keys are in the key drawer. Every once in a while, someone doesn't put them away, and sometimes that's me, but sometimes it's somebody else. But the phone, it's a different thing. If I forget the phone, it can be in a different room. I might have to open my laptop to find my iPhone or my Apple Watch if I remember to wear it, all these things. So as I'm walking out, I thought, like, why? I wasn't super down on myself, but I just thought I wasn't in the happy mode of ADHD. And I was glad it wasn't making me late. It's nice when you've given yourself a buffer time so that you're not going to be late because I thought I don't want to be late today. So I started to get in the car and just thought, it'd be nice. And honestly, there are a lot of times that I remember everything and I get in the car, but there, several times a week of going somewhere that I don't. And it's always just that. But then I decided to appreciate myself or recognize, you know what? You thought of the phone before you even sat down in your seat, before you even drove away. Because I used to say a long, long time ago when we would go on a trip, whenever we travel with our kids or go on a trip or wherever we were going, that usually within the first hour, half hour, an hour or something away, we did a lot of road trips. I would think of the one thing I forgot. I forgot to bring extra, underwear besides what I'm wearing. Or I forgot to bring pajamas, or I forgot to bring back, for a long time we didn't have cell phones. But so I didn't have to think of that. But there was always something. There was always something guaranteed. And usually I would think about it when we were too far away from the house. And And so I just knew that that was gonna be the thing. And sometimes, you can go buy more underwear or you can wash them by hand every night or just I've had a lot of instances that I've had to adapt. One time, I decided to be really, really brilliant. Somebody else must have given me this idea. It was years ago because we had all of our kids at home and we went on a trip to Disneyland. We lived way in Northern California where I was talking way up in the redwoods. Up, if you know California, there's Eureka is a town. It's not a big town, but it's the biggest in that little area. And then north of there is Crescent City, and then there's Oregon along the coast in the redwoods. Well, we live north of Eureka. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I'm looking at myself, and I don't even know if I cleaned them. But anyway, um, one time we were going to Disneyland, and to drive to Disneyland from up there, it's like 12 hours, 15 hours, I don't remember. In California, you measure things by hours, not 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 miles, because some roads are slower than others. And anyway, so we were gonna drive the first afternoon, evening, and stay with my aunt about 4 hours away and spend the night. Bring all our kids in there with all our stuff. Well, it didn't make sense to bring in all these suitcases and everything just to be at her house for one night. So I heard someone's brilliant idea, and it was a good idea, to pack a backpack, just one bag. It's just for the first night that has pajamas and one pair of clothes for each one of the kids and all of your toiletries. Maybe I had two bags. Maybe one bag was my one with like all the toiletries and like for diapers and then the other one was everyone has to change clothes, everyone has a pair of pajamas and toothbrushes and everything. So all the toothbrushes, the toiletries, the makeup, hairspray, little travel spray, whatever it was, brush, comb, all in one little backpack. And then the other one had everyone's clothes. So we go in and we stay the night and we stayed, changed our clothes and everything. We are a few hours away, maybe an hour, I don't remember, driving. And I realized I left the backpack that had all of our toothbrushes, brush, comb, my makeup, whatever I would need, deodorant, I don't know. It was all at my aunt's house. And we weren't gonna be back for, like, 5 days or something. We were staying with a friend in Pasadena. So, I had to go to Target and buy all those things. Thankfully, there was Target, there's always a way. You either do without or there's a way, but I had to buy makeup. I don't have expensive makeup. But why do we remember sometimes and not all the time? Well, the way that our brains work is we have to keep track of things, right? We have to think of things, we have to put it in a certain order, we have to think of something and act on it. And that's the working memory, the short term memory turning into actions. And if we have a list and we can check things off a list, that's that's really helpful, right? To have a checklist. I've done that before, packing, especially for camping, especially like if my kids went to a camp or something, checking off, do we have a backpack? Do we have all this stuff? Grocery lists are good if you can not lose your list, but you're not really crossing things off in the store. I mean, maybe in the olden days I did, but honestly, I lost too many grocery lists from the time I wrote them to the time it was time to shop that I stopped doing that. But lists can be helpful, but even that, if your brain is scattered, you might miss something on the list. Just like when I make cookies or bread or something. Even though I've made it 100 times, even though I have a recipe, I might not see everything on there. So there's always a chance that you might forget something when you have ADHD. It's really likely that you'll forget something, and if there's a time you don't, that's more the rare thing. The good thing is if you can remember it when you have time to go back and get it. And sometimes that's like at the grocery store, you're at the counter and you're like, "Oh, I didn't get bananas." And I don't know if you do this or if you hate when people in front of you do this. I don't know. I think I've probably seen other people do it besides myself. But can I run back and get some bananas? I don't do it when it would make the other people wait. But if I have time, I'll run and get bananas. I'll do that. But remembering when you have the chance to do it, because if you remember when you get back home or even when you get in the car, it's more of a hassle, right? Because you either have to drive back to the store or you have to go back in the store or something. Or I've gotten out to the car and I see something in the bottom that I didn't ring up, like if I do self checkout and have to go back in. And so, and sometimes I just hand it to them. I don't want to get in line. Like, I can just live without that today, instead of getting in line to pay for it. But But sometimes we remember, right? So applauding yourself when you do remember, especially if you remember in time, or just to be able to do something later, to be able to have time to go to the store and buy all those things, the toothbrush and everything before the next morning, before it's time to wake up and get to Disneyland. So I've realized that even though I had this mishap, I have this tendency to do something. The last episode was about forgetting, about why we lose things, why we forget things. And part of that is having too much going on in our brains at the same time. And we can't possibly process it all at once. So when your brain has a chance to calm down, like you're sitting in a car on a road trip and it's just like not a lot's going on, that might be when you remember because you're not trying to, like, oh, did I turn off the lights? Did I lock the door? All those things aren't going on and making you wonder, like, what else did I forget? What else forget? There's so many times when we're about to go on a trip. In fact, I mean, this isn't a long trip, but I drove up to Jacksonville a couple weeks ago to take my husband and my boys up there, and they were going on a trip to Europe. And I thought, I'm going to make a drink. I like the Olipop grape soda a lot. I'll make that with some crushed ice. It'll give me something to drink that tastes yummy. 2-hour drive there, 2-hour drive back to the airport. And we were about 15 minutes away, and I went just to get a sip. That's what made me remember, and I didn't have it. And I was so bummed. I was so bummed. And I didn't make them drive back because I knew that they wanted to get there. It wasn't like they'd missed their flight. They were actually going to stay in a hotel and take a shuttle the next morning. But we usually remember when we have the downtime. And I thought, how come I went to all the trouble to make it? That was my last 5+ minutes on my mind, but something else came up like, oh, I should grab my nighttime glasses that I use so that I don't have the lights be bright. Something else I remembered took the place, and then I forgot the other thing. But kudos to me for even remembering the drink, because the fact that I brought it up when my son and daughter-in-law stopped at their house real quick, they brought me some things because I wasn't even going to get a snack. I thought this will tide me over. This will be fine. And they got me snacks, they got me another soda, and I was fine. And so when you find that you're forgetting something, you're messing up in any way that it happens, hopefully follow that up with, uh, well, it's good that I did this. At least I did that. It could have been a lot worse. Maybe sometimes it can't be a lot worse, but it always can be a lot worse, right? It just depends on what the situation is. I guess you can always have it could be a lot worse, but I don't even like to go down that road because that just sounds more like we're getting into the negative. And I like to stay in the positive if I can, for as much as I can. There's negative that comes up in life, and if I can stay in the positive with what I can control, then that's a good thing. So appreciating yourself when something isn't going well, and it doesn't even have to be ADHD related. If you make a mistake, we all make mistakes. If you say the wrong thing to somebody, maybe you think at least I spent some time with that person. And there were other positive things because we tend to harp on the negative. And the negative can lead to something negative, but a lot of times it's things that are just in our mind that aren't a problem. And it's kind of fascinating because a lot of people will tell you, like, let's say something does bother them that you say and they tell you. I've had that happen a few times where someone says, "I have to just tell you this upset me." And it's always a surprise. It's not something that I've worried about. Like, the things that I worry about aren't what was the problem. So why do we worry about those things? We're usually not right. We're usually not right at all. I've even apologized at the end of a yoga class, like, "Sorry, the music was a little loud and then low." I was trying to regulate the volume, and they're like, "We didn't notice any of that," and I try to not point out the things that might have bothered them from now on, because then they might notice it the next time. Why do I need to draw their attention to that? So what else can you do to appreciate yourself? What can you tell yourself? Well, let's back it up a little bit. If you're thinking about somebody else that you appreciate that's done something wonderful for you, it's usually pretty obvious. "Oh, thank you so much for that card," or "Thank you for coming over," or "Thank you for giving my child a ride," or "Thank you for taking me to lunch today," or whatever those things are. We can usually see them pretty easily, right? And when we think of ourselves, what have we done for ourselves each day that help life be better? And there's probably a ton of things that you can point to. You can point to, "I went to sleep last night at a decent hour." Did you? Maybe not, but but when you do, you can point that out. Or, "I got up and I did something good for myself. I exercised, I went for a walk," or, "I decided to have less social media. I decided to stay off of my phone and just have some downtime." Go back to the olden days of looking at some trees, looking at some flowers, looking at some clouds, and just giving my brain a break. Any time that you do some of those things, and that might just be pointing out the self-care aspect, but other things, you can look around your home and you might see some messes or some disorganized spots or things that you need to take care of. That's usually what stands out to me is the giant to-do list that's not written down. It's everywhere I look. "Oh, I should do that." I used to teach yoga in my living room for a little while. After I stopped teaching it at this one gym, I thought, I can just have these people come to my living room. And the things that I would not notice in normal life, I would notice while I was teaching yoga, because you lay down on the mat and I look up and I think, "Oh, I should paint that." Like, that like, got scuffed or something. Like, I would see things, or I need to get those webs down, and I would think about it then. Did I remember later? No, I would remember it the next time I taught yoga again, because I didn't have a place to write it down and to remember, make an actual to-do list. But sometimes we see all the things that we need to do, and we don't see all the things that we do. And when I look around this room right now, I think that rug, I really love that rug. If I hadn't have conceptualized it. Like, I need a rug in here. It's too echoey when I record. I'm teaching yoga in here. I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to look for rugs. It took a few trips there. And then I went back on a Monday. I don't know if you know, if you're 55 or older, that TJ Maxx in some states gives a 10% off discount. So I went back on a Monday, bought it, have no idea how it fit in my car. It was crazy, but it did, because I was gonna borrow my daughter-in-law's van. So I'm thinking about the stuff, like, think of all these things I did. If a friend did this for me, would I be grateful? Yeah. Like, if a friend said, "Hey, I can see you need a rug. Let me go to the store. I'll scope out some rugs. I'll spend some time. I'll see if I can borrow a van. I'll do all these things and arrange it." And it didn't work out to borrow the van last minute. I said, "Well, let me see if I can just fit it in my car." And it was one of those moments with the worker. It was just a young kid who was working there, maybe a young adult kid. But it was like we were having a hero moment together. We were so excited. So just even thinking about a rug in this room is making me so happy, because I'm thinking of some things that I've done. Or if you look around your house, you must have moved into that house at some point, right? Your apartment. You moved in there. That takes a ton of work. When you're moving and you don't have your silverware in the drawer, or your bed's not put together, and you don't know where your sheets are, or your whatever, It's a nightmare. I hate I it's fun moving, but I kinda hate moving. It gets really hard. It's a ton of work, and I look at, like, those weeks of first moving in, it's a lot of work. If somebody else did all that work for me, I'd be writing them thank you notes. Like a year later, I'd be saying, I remember back a year ago when you helped me. Thank you so much. All those moments and recognizing any of those things that you do for yourself or even for others. Thank yourself for that because that's another thing that you do is you help others and it shouldn't go unnoticed. So I just want you to think of having some self-appreciation moments. You don't have to have a self-appreciation day, but if you want to, you can. We had the student appreciation day, the teacher, the parent, and it was all pretty fabulous. And you can take just even a moment anytime you find your brain going negative, especially for something that, yeah, maybe you could help it. Some people might look at you and go like, why'd you forget that? Or why couldn't you get your act together or whatever? That's their problem, right? But if you're late, like, why am I late? And you know why you're late. Sometimes if you have time blindness, sometimes you don't like you go, oh my goodness, how did a half hour go by? Especially when I wake up early. Last week I woke up like at 5:30 and I was just getting a ton done and the kitchen was super messy. I can't remember why. And I thought I'll just clean the kitchen and I was having a fun time, like just getting a lot done. Kept looking at the clock, kept looking at the clock, kept checking like, wow, now it's 6:30 now. I didn't have to leave until like 8:10, 8:15. I guess so it was Friday because I have to start that class at 8:30. And I kept looking at the clock, seeing all this time in the world and kept thinking, oh, I think I'll go do this. And I love being productive, especially first thing in the morning. And then all of a sudden, I looked at the clock and it was 7:59. My brain registered that that meant it's 1 minute till 8, and you need to leave here in like 15 minutes. You haven't put your clothes on yet. You haven't done makeup, hair, anything. It's just out of bed, whatever I was wearing. And I did it. I made it there on time, barely. No time to spare though. Like if I hadn't found my keys, if I'd left my phone in the house, all that stuff. So what was my point? I don't know. What was my point? Oh, sometimes time blindness is a real thing. Like it's not a very apt depiction of time, of having all the time in the world to having no time. And I've thought about getting ready first, like hair and makeup, and it's not like I do a lot to my hair, but you know how much time it takes for that. And I used to do that first, like wake up, get dressed, do that. But for some reason, I like the productive time first. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, appreciate yourself. Give yourself any moment that you go to the what is wrong with me. You can think about it. You can evaluate that if you want. You can put the dots together and say, this is happening because I, I woke up late or I had too much going on in my mind, or it's just what happens. I forget things sometimes. You can address that. You can recognize it, but see if you can follow it up with what did I do that was wonderful? What did I do that was great? And give yourself that appreciation. Years ago, we used, before I even went to that school that had those special appreciation days when I was growing up. So I guess it even goes back. So I did this as a parent, but I also did this as a student. When I was, I don't know, sixth grade, fifth grade, probably was that early. I'll have to ask my mom. Mom, do you know? She'll tell me. Someone told us the idea of having a teacher appreciation dinner at our church. And we thought, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Well, I was a kid, so it wasn't me who planned it. But the parents started planning a teacher appreciation dinner, and all the kids at that church would invite their school teachers, or if you had a ballet teacher, anybody. Nobody really did homeschool back then. So you pretty much just invited your school teacher, but you invited your teacher and they came and we had a dinner and you got to sit with your teacher. And I always thought that was fun. I always liked my teachers. But in high school, maybe I didn't like all my teachers, but I didn't invite all my teachers in high school, just, one or two. And we'd have a dinner for them. And as a student, I thought it was really fun. And I have always loved social situations, so I thought it was great. As a parent, when my children started going to school, I suggested it at my new church. Excuse me for hitting my microphone if you noticed that. But I suggested that. And some people thought it was a great idea, but the only way to really make it happen was I was in charge of it. So I did a lot of work that first time, and my kids were little. It was a ton of work, but it was a huge success. And we did that for probably, let me think, when we moved there, my daughter was 4, and so probably like, yeah, we lived there for 15 years. So I probably started it when she was in school the next year. So probably 14 of the 15 years that we lived there, we had this teacher appreciation dinner into my daughter being in high school. And the feedback that I got from the teachers was, it's so nice to take a break from parent complaints. They said that usually when they heard from parents, usually when they heard from the principal, like if something was to address them directly, if they were getting feedback, it was negative. And this is back in the, what years would that be? Like 2005, 2010, 2000s, probably all the like 95 to 2009 or something when we moved away. And now you look at it, and I think it's much harsher for teachers. And that really stayed with me because I thought, they just said it's nice to come here and have people say thank you to us. It's not like we're walking around saying thank you, but you know what I mean? They're sitting there, they get to sit with their students. Even the high school teachers thought it was really fun. They said the same thing. The teachers started saying, "We look forward to this every year." We say to the other teachers, "Do you have any kids in your class that go to that church?" Because we hope we get invited again. Because many of them were repeat, guests. And at that time, there were more homeschool parents that would come, and they would be recognized, and the kids would even stand up and use a microphone, say something about their teacher. One year we had the kindergarten teacher was retiring, and she wasn't even my kid's kindergarten teacher anymore, but she was for my first 2 daughters. And we honored her, and I gave her a photo album and stuff. And it became this fabulous tradition. And when I think about that and those teachers looking forward to that, because we all need to be appreciated. We all do great things. And when you look at your own mindset and what can happen in your own mind, and maybe you're that parent complaint, maybe you're that principal that's saying, we have another complaint, or you need to do this instead. You're not, I think now teachers hear a lot about like not meeting the standards or the new laws or whatever. There's so much pressure. What pressure do you put on yourself? Where's that feedback coming from your own mind? Or maybe it's coming from other people, but you need to hear it from yourself. Because as much as we would love to have everyone else, always tell us the great things that we do, it doesn't happen that often. And it does happen sometimes. And when it does, it's usually like, wow, I didn't even know that. That's pretty great. But if you really think about it, you might not be giving similar messages to yourself that you might recognize. Yeah, I did forget my phone initially, but I thought of it before I drove away. That is a win. That is a win. Maybe not for other people who never forget their phones, but it is for me, and I'm not them, right? So sometimes I compare myself to other people. Do you? I know other people don't deal with this. Or sometimes people say this about ADHD, that everyone does it. It's not just you. Like everyone has a little ADHD. Actually, I don't think that's true. Some people might have some similar symptoms, but not everyone has similar symptoms. And some of our symptoms are the same as people who are getting older when their brains aren't working as well. That's true. But that doesn't invalidate what you have or how your brain works, whether you're diagnosed with ADHD or you just have some of these tendencies too. They're real for you, and that's what matters, right? So anyway, I'm just going to get off my little soapbox here. But I hope I stayed on it long enough to help you see that you need some positive feedback and you can give that to yourself. We all need to be appreciated, and you can appreciate your own efforts, whether it's something you did today or it's something that you did years ago that's actually making today better. You reorganized a closet and now you can find things. Maybe you did that a month ago. Hopefully it's not messy again. My closet's actually been staying pretty good this past year or so. I've come out of a slump. After we moved here, I wasn't doing very well putting away holiday decorations, and I have quite a few. And one year it took me till about August to get all the Christmas decorations like organized like they should be in their boxes, because I just put them away in messy, messy, messy ways. And it was like kind of hard to walk in and out of that closet. And then even my bedroom closet, the piles would pile up. That's what a pile does, right? You get into a system with laundry and then the piles grow, and then you get in there. It's like, I don't know where to find, like, where are my socks and stuff. And I've been pretty good. It helps me. I don't know if you have a lot of socks, but it helps me to have more socks, for one thing. I don't know how many pairs of socks I have, but I have cubbies in my closet and I have baskets, like that go in. They're actually basket weave baskets. Instead of my husband has the cheapy ones that are more like the fabric that bends or something. I got him that kind because he didn't care if he had baskets or not. But his actually hold more because mine have space at the top. But I have a basket for my fitness socks that like I would wear to the gym. I have a basket for the no-show socks that I would wear for shoes that aren't gym shoes, but I hardly ever wear those shoes actually. So I don't wear those very much. And then I have one for really thick socks that you might put on at night. And then I have one for ankle socks that are more athletic. And then I have one for the socks that I can't find the match for, that I don't want to throw away or something if I can't find the other one. And I keep thinking, like, every time I catch up on laundry, should I give up on the sock because the other one hasn't shown up? But just last night, I got out some sheets. I changed the sheets on a bed upstairs, and a sock fell out of the little elastic part of the fitted sheet. So they can hide places. They can show up again. So anyway, streamlining your system is important. And anytime you take the effort to do that, it'll make your life better. It'll make it flow better. And then you can thank yourself for that, for the things that did go well today. So anyway, that's it for today, or it's at least it for this episode. I might make another episode today. We'll see, but I'll change my shirt if you're watching, so I don't look like I'm the same person. Probably doesn't matter. I probably wore this before. It's just a jacket. But anyway, thank you for being here. Keep going. You're doing great. Tell yourself you're doing great, even if it's just like a thought, a brief thought, and don't try to talk yourself out of it because you do a lot. And I'll be back. Bye. Help other women find this show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Help other women find my show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Hurry before you forget.
Double chins, rubber ducks, squeaky cheese and paper cups, applesauce, Superman, rocket ships and Peter Pan, boogie boards and parachutes and soda cans, jumping jacks and pillowcases for my hands, Donald Duck and fire trucks and Pokemon, Santa Claus and Johnny Depp and Donkey Kong, chocolate chips and zippers, zips and 914, little children jumping on the trampoline, model trains and passing lanes and super glue, tangerines and magazines and kangaroo. Oh yeah, Daily Rock. Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short, the silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me. I buttered my toast Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause.